So
Amazing, ain't it?
we're streaming on Twitch.
We're actually streaming.
Oh my goodness.
How old are you? By the way, you're
I'm fan
26?
I am 24.
24.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
that's pretty young.
You just said you were 30?
I'm 30. Yeah, that's fucked up. But your content on Instagram just got so mature.
Yeah?
So you look older.
Ah, well, I'll take that as a compliment. I see all the
Oh,
books that you have in the back. That's maybe what
I
I would
I used to
attribute.
read.
You used to read, not
I
anymore.
Yes, I do, but a lot less. I studied philosophy before powerlifting ever existed for me.
Ooh, okay.
It
When
was
when
it
did
was
you start powerlifting?
I think I started powerlifting the same year that you, because I started
Okay.
2017.
I did my first comp in 2018, so yeah, around the same
Yeah,
time.
I checked that out.
Did your research.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know if you have always improved your total competition by
Yeah.
competition. And I found
So,
one competition I want to talk about in which
yeah,
you didn't perform,
yeah,
but that helped me because I was there.
yeah.
I had an athlete competed against you,
Ah, yeah, I remember
and
this. I
our
remember this.
only goal was to beat you because
No.
we were in the B group, so we couldn't reach any higher. But
Yeah,
you and him were at the top of the B group,
yeah,
and we beat you. It was in it was in Sweden in
yeah,
Vasteras, I think.
yeah. I remember that competition. That was the competition where I almost quit the sport. That was
You
almost,
almost,
yeah, I was so sure that I was going to quit the sport after that one. I,
but you were
yeah,
just 20.
yeah, yeah. I'd say the training for the past year leading into the Worlds just before that, and then that European Championships, I dreaded every session, I would say. Like every time I was going into the gym, I was like, this is destroying me. This is like taking so much effort, but I'm not seeing the returns. So, kind of as you mentioned, maybe to give a little bit of context, leading from my first competition, I was like a sub junior under 83 kilo lifter. And gradually from that point, I was like moving up in body weight and I was getting heavier. And I saw a bit of success at European Championships as an under 93 kilo lifter and placed third as a sub junior. And I was like, okay, now that I'm going into the junior category, if I can just stay at this same body weight and add 200 kilos to my total, I'll be amazing.
Sounds easy, yeah.
I'll be I'll be so competitive. So that's what I was trying to do. And leading into that comp, or like that kind of year, we had COVID and everything, and that shut stuff down. I set up a home gym, so I was training at home. I
Yeah.
had like Alico equipment in my shed. I was like so dedicated to training. I was training 6 days a week, working with Joey Flex, like the best coach in the world. Like I had everything going for me, but I was making no progress whatsoever. And I was so confused. I was so stressed. I was like, I've put so much money into this. I'm putting so much effort into this. I'm doing everything right. Like what I thought was absolutely everything that I needed to do. Why am I not seeing the returns for this? Why is my total not going up? It's like it's been the same for a year and I'm training so hard. And of course I was like ignoring the elephant in the room that I'm like 19, 20 years old and I've been the same body weight for the last 2 years. I haven't gotten any heavier. I haven't really built any significant amount of like new muscle tissue. I've been training for multiple years already. I'm already efficient at the competition lifts. But I couldn't understand that. I had no I couldn't connect those two dots. So leading into that world championships, I had an okay performance. I think I totaled 730 ish.
Yeah.
And then it was maybe like a 6 to 8 week turnaround to go into that European Championships that we're talking about here. And my body was just beat up. I was super sore. I was not enjoying training. I was having to like maintain my body weight around like 95, 96 kilos, go to Sweden, and the normal like weight cut protocol that I would do before competition, I just wasn't able to follow it properly. The scales that I had, I was staying in an Airbnb and the wooden floor was all warped. So I couldn't get like an accurate reading of my body weight at all for the week, like leading up to the competition. I had no idea where my body weight was. And eventually, like the day before the competition, I got to use the like comp scales to see where I was. And it was heavier than I should have been or wanted to be by that stage. I didn't have access to a sauna. I didn't have access to like a hot bath. I was trying to make a makeshift kind of steam room with the shower in the Airbnb to try allow myself to sweat off like the extra weight that I needed to get down. Wasn't working. The water wasn't getting hot enough. It was like such a disaster of a cut. I was having to spit, all this sort of thing. My training leading into it was all stressful and bad. And then that competition itself, even before the day started, I was like, I don't want to do this. This is gonna be miserable. Why training is so hard. No, I'm not getting stronger. I'm so bad. Everyone's gonna think I'm such a loser. Everyone has these expectations that I'm gonna be good, and I know myself I'm not gonna be. So I was in a bad place in my head leading into that competition. I didn't see it going well, and that probably then contributed to it not going too well. But yeah, that was I was so sure after that competition. It's probably the worst performance I've had to date, even though in hindsight it wasn't that bad. Like the
you
whole
did
experience was not that bad.
you didn't quit.
No, no.
Why?
So I after that competition, I think I failed two deadlifts in a row. One of them I like bobbled at the top, and then the next one I dropped, kind of almost at
Nice.
lockout. And I went home and I was like, I'm not posting a meet recap from this. I'm like too embarrassed. I'm not talking to anybody about how this competition went. I'm just gonna pretend like it never happened. Everyone's gonna think I'm so bad and I'm such a loser. I'm just never this. It's like I'm gonna block this out like this never ever happened. And then I was like sulking in the Airbnb. Everyone was going out and partying and celebrating after the competition. And I was like, I'm not going out. I'm wallowing in my my pity here in this Airbnb. I'm not going out. I'm not celebrating. I'm not doing anything. And then for whatever reason, I just had this like moment of clarity where I was like, I'm not perfect. The whole reason I'm so stressed out right now is because I'm trying to give off this impression that I am like this perfect lifter and my total is always going up and I'm like trying to be really competitive. I've already seen some success internationally, so I feel like other people have this expectation of me that I'll be competitive and kind of like placing at the top. I have that expectation of myself that I'll be competitive and placing at the top. So to fall short of that expectation, it was like there was a difference between what reality was and then the ideal that I had created in my mind. And that was where this discomfort and stress was. But once I kind of let go of that like ideal and the pressure I was placing on myself to be this like perfect lifter and to have my total just infinitely increase and just accepted the reality of that's the performance that I had. I can't change it. I That's the performance that I got for all the work that I put in. It's just reflective that whatever work I was putting in is not going to was not leading to the results that I wanted. There was some discrepancy between reality and this idea that I had. So something needs to change. Something in the process that I'm taking needs to adjust and be different and adapt. And for whatever reason, I realized like right then, I need to go up a weight class. Like I need to just try move up and see what I can do. And I committed to after that competition. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to give this one more go. This is the only thing I haven't tried yet. I feel like I've done everything. I've tried doing more volume. I've tried changing the split. I've tried like dialing in my food intake. The only thing I hadn't tried is eating more food. So let me try that, and I'll give that one more competition. And from that competition and that point on, it was almost like linear increase. My total started to skyrocket again from there for all of the subsequent competitions.
And you started working with Joey like when you were too young.
Yeah, I
You were
did.
17 or 18?
Yeah, I signed up with Joey when I was 18. So I'd been working with him for 5, 6 years, something like that.
How
Yeah.
did you make that decision? Because it wasn't so common to have like a
Yeah.
cloud coach
Yeah.
back in that day.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And I think it's maybe a byproduct of the coaching situation in Ireland.
Okay.
So in Ireland, there would be like a couple of main clubs. There's maybe like three or four main clubs at the time that almost everyone was working with. But I don't know how it would be in Spain. There was kind of like a not that there was like a really serious rivalry, but there was a little bit of like a cult-ish mentality where if you were with one club, you the other clubs were the enemies and so on and so forth.
It used to
Whereas
happen
I,
here too.
yeah, I really enjoyed just being friendly with everyone. I was like, this is already like a really small niche sport. So I just like being friends with it. I don't want to feel like I'm in this group and I can't associate with people in this group. I like being friendly with everyone. So I kind of wanted to avoid that uh us versus them mentality or situation that there was. And I had a friend slash like mentor at the time who was maybe like 6, 7 years older than me, but he had been lifting internationally representing Ireland at the time. So he was like OG, really OG powerlifting. And he was working with Joey. And I was like, how the hell are you working with Joey? Like how does that happen? He's in America. He's like this massive international coach. And he was like, you just send him an email. And I was like, what? You can do that? So when I was 18, I moved to Australia for a year to travel. And when I was traveling, I was like, you know what? Let me just see. Let me reach out to this Joey guy and see if he'll take me on. And actually, this is a funny one, and I've said it to this person since, but it was actually Sean Mills, Wheeze, who made me most compelled to sign up with Joey because I was like, okay, this guy is the same age as me. He is like the same kind of build, age, demographic, everything.
He's the same
He's
age,
incredible.
right, Sean?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, if Joey can make him as incredibly strong as he is, he could probably make me that strong too, or at least somewhat in that realm. So let me get onto him and see what we can do. And yeah, so I signed up with him after I had done European Championships as a sub junior in 2019, and then for every comp since we were together.
So you've been working together for 6 years,
Yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah,
had
a
one
long time.
competition, but you didn't leave him, which happens to
Nope.
be a trend in
Yeah,
powerlifting.
that yeah. I think because I could recognize that there's like there had to be there had to be something else going on in my mind where I could identify this guy works with so many amazing athletes, so many top lifters. Like I had seen the benefits of working with him. I think one of the biggest helps that I had was like changing my mindset or the way that I approached lifting. Working with my previous coach, there was a bit of an, or at least I took the impression that there was this like super mega precise layout of training that we had to follow. And if you deviated from this super precise framework, you were going to destroy your progress and you're a failure. Like if it says RPE 7 on the program and you hit an RPE 7.5, oh my God, you've ruined it. You've destroyed it. You're not following the program. And for me, that created like so much stress and anxiety around training. Whereas when I moved to Joey, I think the overall outlook and understanding of maybe like the fundamental principles of what we want to follow, like if you do a certain few things, that will facilitate progress regardless.
Yeah,
So if we are doing these, we will get stronger over time. So I was like, okay, there has to be some variable that I'm missing along here. And it was through conversations with Joey about that I was able to explore and uncover, okay, the move that we need to make from here is moving up in body weight and getting stronger.
it's
So yeah,
funny.
there was never.
It,
So
it's
you go
com-
ahead.
it's commonly known that everyone who works with Joey overshoots because we've all seen those RPE 8, which are everything,
Yeah,
but an
the
RPE 8. The
the
first of
flex
them
eight.
is Rust.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you see his backups; they are
yeah,
220 for squat,
yeah,
no matter the
yeah,
day.
yeah,
So then you learn something, or you
yeah,
you start to learn something that it
yeah,
is not about that precise
yeah.
layout.
Yeah, that was huge for me. I'd say there was two big shifts in training that I had. One was the necessity of like building more muscle mass long term just to get stronger. And then the other was that idea of like for me, one of the issues that I was running into was doing too much. I was pushing too hard all of the time. I had a secondary day, and the secondary day, let's just pull like random numbers out, but say it's like a triple on squat at RPE 7. In my brain, I'm going, okay, RPE 7, 3 reps in reserve for like a triple. That's going to be hard as nuts. That's going to be like a hard set of three. and I would be killing myself. And then my primary day would be so inconsistent. I'd come in and my performance would be like up one week, and then I'd try to push these secondary days, and then my primary day the following week is way down because I feel super beat up and sore. And then I have to pull back the load on that secondary day. And then the week I come in after that, I feel amazing because I pulled back a little bit, and then I express loads of strength. And then it's that same thing where I'm more fatigued and it's up and down and up and down. And then through talking with Joey, he was like, okay, on a secondary day, say I have written down an RPE 7, but that's an RPE 7 on a secondary day. So I have that extra overlay that this is going to be chill work. This is not something where we want to kill ourselves. We don't want to do something on this day that will make ourselves feel worse on the subsequent primary day. The idea of like building momentum throughout a block, how we want to work towards that, like week 4, flex 8, towards the end of the block so we can express strength there, how we can kind of coax that progression out of our body. Yeah, that was like a really useful idea for myself, and having a little bit of the wiggle room to express or to explore bigger jumps within the training. So like starting off a block super light. I I had a block where I squatted 317, and I'm pretty sure my first single in that block was maybe 245. So I went 245 to, I think I went 245, 265, 285, 370.
That's
Uh,
trusting the process, huh?
Whereas before, I would have felt like I need to adhere to like a certain percentage. Maybe that first like single I'd take is in and around 82% because that's what an RPE chart would correlate that I should be hitting for an RPE 6 single. But yeah, having that confidence and autonomy, perhaps that Joey kind of fosters a lot to explore what I feel works for me, having the trust in what works for me, as opposed to being entirely reliant on a coach who is the like all knowing, all seeing messiah. And you have to follow this layout. Like it's this super precise layout. And if you don't follow this, you're ruining it. You're ruining the whole plan. You're going to absolutely derail and destroy everything.
Do you think
Having,
that big
sorry,
cloud of Joey is pushing you in a way that, look, everybody is progressing and you are not progressing? You're
I,
going, you're
I,
in a good way, maybe.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it makes you improve in some way, but that big cloud is a good push.
yeah, 100%. Like that was one of the appeals with working with Joey as well, is that like his roster was insane and is insane.
It's insane.
So like when you are surrounded, like even if you're not necessarily talking to these people all the time, like you're
Yeah, yeah.
following a general system of training that they are seeing like these insane results. And yeah, for me anyway, I found that like incredibly motivating as I was going throughout my training. Um, yeah, that was something that I took a lot from, I would say, like confidence from that, belief and buy-in. That's something that I think is really important, really important. And it's something that I am finding more and more with myself as a coach. The the buy-in to the process is absolutely essential. Like I'm not sure how to quantify it or to like put a figure on how important that it is, but like for me, even when I'm coaching, if someone is like sending an application and they want to sign up, but there's any expression of like they're kind of just shopping around or they're like looking at a few different places or they're trying to like kind of just get a feel for price. And if
Yeah.
like price is the most important variable, I find myself saying to people now that we may not be the best fit to work together because I work best with people who want to work with me through the content that I produce and like all of the information. I try to be as transparent as possible with like my views, the way I think, the way that I coach. The people who work best with me already have found that they align with that. They align with me, they align with the way that I think. They are bought into me as a coach and they are willing to follow through with the direction or system or instruction that I give. Now, obviously, it's important to have that collaboration, but to have someone who trusts in you fully, as opposed to someone who is like half in, half out, just like trying to get a feel or shop around for the best price. That's that's something that I have found to be like invaluable when you have that kind of merging of investment from both parties, from the coach and then from the lifter who believes in the coach and they will follow whatever is prescribed. So I definitely had that with Joey, and I think it's yeah. If you're like having questions around your coach, or you're not really bought in, or you're like you're doubting them, or you're not trusting what they're saying, I think you're setting yourself up for disaster in that front.
So I guess that's why you are producing the content you're producing now on Instagram, because it is, I'd say, too sharp for social media right now. I mean, too long didn't read.
Yeah,
I read it and I like
yeah,
it, but
yeah,
you're putting your money on
yeah,
like let's say a 5% of your
yeah,
audience reading.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're working
So
for those who want to read you. You're not working for everyone.
exactly. Yeah. So I think that's something that I've had to get comfortable with. And this is something that maybe it'll be a bit of a tangent into another topic. I I've always, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but I've always wanted to try to like get on well with everyone, try to be liked by everyone, try to appeal to everyone. And that was always kind of the intent that I would have. Like
Like since
I
you were a child.
yeah, yeah. I just want to I just don't like the idea that there is someone who wouldn't like me or they'd have bad things to say about me. So I tried to appeal to everyone. And I was trying to do that in my content. And it was getting to a stage where when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. It's just like generic, kind of bland expression rather than a true, authentic expression of myself. So something that I've been trying to come to more and more is just living in alignment and expressing myself in alignment with whatever my values are, whatever I believe to be true, whatever I believe to be important, whatever I believe to be interesting, and trusting that the people that are aligned with that and aligned with the way that I think, they will find me, and the things that I produce will resonate with them. So I know full well that most people will not stop to read a 10-page carousel with some maybe like abstract ideas and some philosophy and some spirituality even. But the people who are aligned with the way that I think and would be well suited to work with me and so on, or maybe gain some value from the ideas that I'm sharing, they'll be the ones that it does click for, and they will stop to read it, and then that will allow me to cultivate that environment that is authentic to myself, be able to have conversations with people like you. There's commonality between the way that we think if we're uh resonating with the same ideas, and that's what I want to be able to have more space for that in my life, and to be able to be true to myself and true to the things that are interesting to me rather than trying to create content to appease everyone, because that will never be possible.
So it's a perfect time because I have a video of one of my athletes who wanted
Yes.
to ask you regarding this. So
Yeah.
please let me find it. Just a
Yeah,
second.
absolutely.
Okay. You can see the video, right?
Yeah.
So give me a second. Okay, let's go for it.
Hi, Andrew. My name is Rodri. For the past year or so, we've seen a shift in your Instagram content, and I would say you're more focused now on psychology topics related to powerlifting. In that regard, I would like to know your opinion um, on a common topic that's been discussed a lot. Uh, Maybe it's just here in Spain, but it's about burnout and leaving the sport of powerlifting. I'm saying this because one of those recent posts that I'm mentioning was about how you almost quit powerlifting. Taking that into account, my question will be, what are some things that you think the institutions, and when I say institutions, I mean the federations, could do to both reduce the amount of lifters that leave the sport and promote the powerlifting sport so that more people are willing to try it, to give it a try.
Wow. That's a
Okay,
great question.
I want to add one
Yeah.
thing because he talks about institutions,
Yeah.
but I would like to know what do you think coaches can do to
Okay.
to reduce this burnout?
Yeah. That is a fantastic question. Wow.
Long ass
Firstly,
question.
thank you very much for like sending that in. Thank you very much for organizing that. That's
He has
I appreciate
the
that.
best English I've heard in Spain in Spain.
Yeah.
So don't get used to that.
Uh, yeah, so shout out to him. Thank you very much. Um, okay, so to reduce burnout, it's it's very interesting because it's something that I've experienced a couple of times, perhaps. Firstly, in that instance that we were exploring, say at the start, like when we first hit record here, about how I felt like I was working so hard, but I wasn't seeing the progress. I felt like I wasn't seeing the return from the work that I was putting in. But I would say I'm even experiencing a updated version of that now, given that I have like cut down so much body weight. In that, whenever I would identify, because you hear what is the stats where most people stay in powerlifting for 2 years, something like that. Is 2 years before
Yeah, two
they
years.
tend
I saw a
to
post
leave.
recently.
Yeah. Um, so I've like questioned that before. Why is it generally around that point when people tend to stop? And I think it correlates most with when progress starts to slow down, when the amount of work required to facilitate more progress becomes more, there's more asked of you, perhaps there's more sacrifice that needs to be made, or the rate of return is slower and slower. So what made me consider quitting is when I felt like I was giving so much but the return that I was getting was minimal. So the progress, like the feeling of like I'm pursuing a goal and I'm getting better at it, I think that's something that's inherently like addicting for us. We like making progress towards a goal. Whereas when we feel like we are putting in a lot of effort and not making progress towards that goal, that tends to be when the like that kind of discrepancy comes in. I always kind of noticed it's very rare that someone's gonna quit or leave powerlifting when they're making a ton of progress. I don't know if you would find the same, but when someone is hitting mega PBs, I don't think anyone is leaving the sport in that condition. And for me, say cutting down, when I was 117 at my heaviest, I was hitting massive like lifetime PBs. Now I'm like 33 kilos or so lighter. I'm sitting around like 84 kilos at the moment. Throughout that process over the last year or so, my numbers have gradually been coming down again. And I had a conversation recently the other day, someone asking me about like what are my goals relative to performance. And honestly, I'm very cautious around creating like a self-limiting belief because if you decide something in your head, then that's likely going to manifest for you. I was like, I'm not sure if I could see myself hitting lifetime PBs again. I don't know if I could see myself excelling the PBs that I had hit due to the fact that there's now such a discrepancy from how heavy I was before to how heavy I am now. I think the likelihood is I could recomp and perhaps like match those numbers, but in the realm of like 10 kilos lighter. Given that I'm like 30 plus kilos lighter now, I just can't foresee myself with the frame that I have being able to handle the same like overall total loads. And for me, it then like made me start to question, okay, what would be the appeal with like powerlifting? What would my goals be? If I don't see any lifetime PBs on the horizon, what what is the allure? What is the drive? Is the drive to see like progress in maybe like my dots or my Wilk score or my GL points, things like that, potentially. And that is something that I had for a while to try recomp and hit like PBs in that regard, like body weight and coefficient PBs, to have some sort of mountain to climb. So I think maybe in a roundabout way, I know I haven't necessarily answered the question directly. I think understanding that it is that progress towards an objective, towards a goal, almost regardless of what the goal is, that is what's addictive and what is like enjoyable. Obviously, there's plenty of other things that are enjoyable about powerlifting, such as the community aspect and so on. Like it's generally beneficial for our health to be weight training. It's a fun way to do that. But I think it's most fun when we are making progress and we're seeing continual improvements. We're getting feedback that what we're doing is driving us in a positive direction. I think that's the addictive part of lifting. I think that's for a lot of people, or maybe I'll just speak for myself, what was addicting in the beginning. When the progress starts coming really fast, you're seeing that tangible like increase in numbers. So recognizing that, trying to find ways to facilitate that as best as possible, not getting to a stage which I found myself in where I moved up so far, I went so extreme in the pursuit of chasing numbers, like with going up in my body weight, that to get back to a stage where I felt like good with my physique, that there was going to be such a long period of a deficit that during that period you're not going to be hitting BBs and you're likely not going to be seeing a ton of progress on your lifts for that time. Don't make that gap so big that you have multiple months where you don't enjoy the powerlifting style training, because that's something that I definitely struggled with and suffered from over recent months, where I'm coming in, I'm just seeing my numbers go down every week. So playing on that idea of like the progress being the thing that is most exciting, perhaps, about powerlifting, at least from my own experience, that was difficult. You don't want to get to a stage where the training itself no longer is like that fun or exciting or enjoyable. So leaning into that, then there is the avenue of trying to detach from those like objective markers of progress, like PBs and medals and achievements at comps, trying to detach from that as much as you can and just enjoying the process of training for the sake of training, enjoying the community aspects, enjoying just the fact that what you're doing is largely beneficial for your health. It's like a mountain to climb. But I think we always want to feel as though we are climbing higher up the mountain. If you feel like you're going to war every day in the gym, but you're not getting any closer to this endpoint, you're not making like forward momentum or progress. I think that's what often leads to that burnout. Um, so yeah, in terms of like what federations could do to try prevent that, it's a great question. It's a great question. I don't know if there's any major ideas that come to mind for me. Do you have ideas in that regard of what federations could do to
but
encourage that maintenance, encourage the
they involve a lot of money.
yeah,
I mean, I think of specialized gyms, environments prepared specifically for powerlifting athletes and clubs
yeah,
and stuff. But without money, I don't know if there was anything we could do, because if they paid athletes, they would be
yeah,
elite athletes, so they don't want to leave the sport anyway.
very
So
true.
how do you make them, kids with 500 total, not leave the sport in like 3 or 4 months if they are not progressing? I think federations or institutions can't do a lot in that regards.
Yeah. That's actually a very interesting point, and this is something that I've thought before, but I don't know if I've ever expressed it. When I started powerlifting, it sounds kind of weird to say because it was obviously still big, but there was not really any sub juniors in Ireland at the time, like in my weight class. When I checked the records, like when I heard powerlifting was a sport and I hopped on Google and I checked the Irish Federation and I checked the records, there wasn't even records at the time. It was just like a standard that if you beat the standard, then you took the record.
It
So
was
there
a
was,
weird time because I coached several athletes that
yeah,
filled a gap that didn't exist. So all of a
yeah,
sudden you feel you are elite
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's no one
There
competing at that body
there
weight
was no one else.
at that age. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
then
for me,
you have to rebuild that athlete once they become
yeah,
junior, or once the the the, the people increase and they realize, okay, I'm not even strong. I'm top six in my country, which is great too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
they were gold.
Yeah. So that's exactly it for me. That's what I found. So I saw I like did my first competition and I took these records. And then within my first year, like the following year after my first competition, I'd qualified to go international. And then I went international and I placed third in Europe. So I had this tons of success off the bat that was it was a huge like driving force to dedicate so much time to it because there was this like a big mountain that I was climbing and I was seeing a ton of return from it. And then I went into the juniors and there was that discrepancy of this idea that I thought I would be at. And then I'm placing 10th at a European Championship as a junior because I'm competing against people who've been training for 4 more years than me, 5 more years
We
than me,
placed
whatever it is.
ninth.
Yeah. Uh, so that's when I had this like that's when I felt like least engaged with powerlifting. That's when I felt like, is this worth it? Like, is this giving to me as much as it's taking? So on. I wonder if I was to start powerlifting in this like day and age, if I went back in time, or if for some reason 16-year-old Andrew was transported into today's age, would I have that same drive for powerlifting? Because it is so much more competitive. Because I wasn't getting all of that positive feedback initially. I wasn't getting the records off the bat. I wasn't getting the opportunities to compete internationally. Would just the idea of being able to make progress, would that be enough to compel me to continue with the sport? It's interesting. I don't know if that would be the case. I wonder, is it harder for young kids starting now where they're looking online and they're seeing like fucking 83 kilo lifters totaling 900 plus and things
80
like that?
skies or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and like, I wonder, does it feel like the discrepancy is too big to close that gap, as opposed to say all the positive reinforcement I got in the beginning stage when I was starting? Was I just fortunate at the time? And then kind of that consideration of you can only like beat the people that are there at the time. So whenever I was competing,
Yeah,
like I
that's the
was
thing.
at the yeah, I was the forefront of whoever was there. Like at the time, that was excelling. But now it's like the gap between what is excelling and where most people are starting is just so significant and so overwhelming now that I wonder, from a coach's perspective, how can you foster like the enjoyment and the enjoyment of the process as opposed to the reward of medals and records, etc., being the driving force. And then there's this idea, something that like hits home for me is the people who tend to see the best results are the ones who enjoy the lifestyle that precedes getting the results. So if you just enjoy training for training's sake and you enjoy like hitting your nutrition targets and so on, and that's just something you do for the love of the game, the likelihood is you're going to go further than the person who just wants the medal. Because the person who loves the process, they're going to show up. There is not going to be any wavering in that. They're going to do it for weeks and months and years just because they enjoy doing that for itself. Whereas when you are only chasing the outcome, that's not going to be enough when it's a stressful day, you're tired, you have a bunch of other competing desires and responsibilities and so on that are weighing on you. So finding ways to enjoy the process just for training, just loving going into the gym, loving training with the community and the environment that is around you, just loving the process of lifting weights. If you can get to the stage where you enjoy that, you don't need these like outcomes in order to feel like happy and satisfied. I think that would be the most conducive environment to seeing the best results. But that's tricky. And then I wonder, have I only got to that stage because I have achieved the records and I have achieved the medals. And then I got to that stage to realize that it doesn't really make you that happy and fulfilled. As soon as you get the medal or you get the record, you wake up the next morning and nothing has changed whatsoever. You're the exact same person. And then you realize, oh, okay, these things are not, they don't fill whatever like gap I was hoping that they would fill. They don't you expect this feeling where you're going to be like hoisted up on a king's chair and there's going to be confetti and everybody's going to tell you how amazing you are. It doesn't transpire like that. So while I was chasing this like external validation and reward, it wasn't it didn't fill the gap that I was looking for it to fill. So then eventually I realized, okay, it's not this external validation which is what I'm looking for. I need to find ways to just enjoy the daily process for the sake of enjoying each day. I can't defer this enjoyment in the hopes that some medal is going to make up for it because I know it won't. Have had periods of 6 months of training that were like shit and miserable, and then I got a medal at the end of it, and you enjoy the medal for a day, and then you go on to the next day, and
You're still weak.
it's the exact same thing. Yeah. So you want like how could it have been different if I actually enjoyed those 6 months of training? If I enjoyed every day, if I found ways to be happy and grateful at each step of the process, as opposed to deferring this enjoyment and hoping that once I move past the threshold of a certain goal that I've set for myself, that magically it will make up for all that time. I want to find ways to enjoy each day in the lead up to that goal rather than placing all the emphasis on the achievement of the goal itself. So trying to find ways to cultivate that in a lifter or somebody else, I think that would go a long way to avoiding burnout. That's difficult to do. I'm not sure if it's, again, for myself, did I come to that conclusion by chasing it for so long and then realizing that it didn't fulfill what I was looking for it to fulfill? So then I could start looking elsewhere. I'm not sure. Do you have to experience that to be able to get to that stage? I don't think so. I think through having the conversations around it, that goes a long way to opening that up. But yeah, I think trying to find ways to enjoy the process as much as you can and realizing that the endpoint's a certain PB, etc., etc. It's like that idea of the hedonic adaptation. As soon as you get to like a new high point, the bar and the goalpost just moves that much higher. Don't expect that when you reach this bar, it's all going to be worth it and everything's going to be amazing. Try find ways to enjoy every step of the process up to that point. Yeah. So like kind of expressing or exploring those ideas, I think is quite important, and that would perhaps go a sizable way to cultivating a mindset that allows someone to enjoy training for the long haul, stay in it for the long game, because that's when you will then see the best results.
Eventually, you'll have to fall in love with training itself
Yeah, yeah,
sooner or later. But
yeah,
as a coach, I guess you've had to learn to work with people who will never be at Euros or never will be at Worlds because you as a lifter had that chance so early in your career. I
yeah,
had to do the other work. I never did anything in powerlifting myself. I was decent, let's say decent,
yeah,
but I've I've learned to work with people who has that spark, who has that luck, who has that chance so early, and I'm way older than most of my athletes. So I've it's a never-ending learn process, and I don't know. You can compare the guy who's stuck in the 500s at 83 and the guy who just won Euro Sub Junior and the next year is top 8 or 10. I don't know if it makes any sense to compare. I think being stuck at 500s and progress slowly but surely can make you love the sport more easily. But man, they never got this chance to pull for something like their third. And I think that's not comparable. It would be unfair, even for the sport,
yeah.
to just say everyone everyone has what they has. You don't have to think about being a world champion. It would be unfair.
This is an interesting idea. It's I don't have a fully formed way to express it. It's something that I was talking very briefly with the other Andrew that I do
Yeah,
my own podcast with about how not how do I explore this? The idea of having competitions that are not necessarily a competition. He said when he goes to a competition now, he doesn't necessarily view it as like a ranking of in this weight class, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. He views it as just like a culmination or a coming together of different people expressing their own strength and running their own race and uh performing to the best of their ability on their own journey. He was like, I don't even love necessarily the idea of like me placing fourth at a competition. I love coming together into one environment with other people who are pursuing the same thing, who have the same goals, the same objectives. They're on their own entirely separate path. And we are all just trying to better ourselves and express that to the best of our ability. It's fascinating. Now, I don't
Kind
think
of
that,
new age, huh?
yeah, I don't know if necessarily we should get rid of competitions altogether and everybody gets a participation medal. And I know competition has definitely got like really significant benefits in pushing people higher. Like there is that idea of you are neck and neck with someone else. Like that will maybe push you or make you more inclined to do that extra bit of work that you would have skipped out on otherwise. If you were, if you would be so inclined to skip out on your accessories or not track your food or so on, if you know that doing so will potentially make you place a bit higher, that competition can foster or encourage maybe an increase in performance that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. But there is something that I do like about that idea of removing the pressure for like maybe those people who are not placing as high. They're placing seventh or eighth at a regional competition where I think internally you would do the work where it's just me against me. I just want to improve on whatever the total that I had last time. I think that comparison to the person who is totaling 200 300 kilos more than them through whatever combination of variables that allowed them to do that. I think for the person who is starting their journey at a different place in their journey, not having that comparison could potentially have utility. Having a place to just express strength. A few people I've talked to have kind of explored that idea of they like training more than competing. They love the process of training to get stronger. They love the process of trying to get stronger than they were before, stronger than they were a month ago, 3 months ago, a year ago.
I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that idea.
No,
When an athlete of mine tells me I prefer training than competing,
yeah.
I'm not sure what I think about that.
Tell me more. Explore it with me.
Uh, I think it hides something. You have to love
Interesting.
training,
Yeah,
obviously, and you will compete better if you love training for like 9 or 10 months. But you have you eventually have to love to compete. That fear, that possibility of failure,
yeah,
because you yourself have experienced failure. There are people who are stuck in their whatever 80 GLs or whatever. At that stage, you don't feel failure unless you're putting your 100%. Maybe it's 600 total, okay, but if you put your 100% for that 600 and you don't get them, and you whatever you miss your opener or whatever, that's failure. But if you are always at that comfortable stage of I train, I like it, I compete, whatever, I don't mind if I had more kilos in myself, I think that poisons or blocks the possibility of a real growth.
I can hear that. I can understand that for sure. Yeah, for myself, I can reflect back to a time where I did not like competing. Like I would have expressed that sentiment that I love the process of training. I love the process of getting stronger, improving, feeling as though I have a mountain to climb, but I dread competing.
But back
And the
in
reason,
2023 or 2024,
yeah,
where you had your third deadlift on mixed grip, it was
yeah,
2024.
yeah, yeah,
There you loved competing.
yeah, there I loved competing. Yeah.
And I
And
have the feeling that you didn't care so much if you failed that third.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So that's definitely the journey that I had to go through. So I hated competing because I was so scared of failure. I
Yeah.
felt like every competition was the opportunity for judgment. It was where I was going to determine if I was a success or a failure, if I had value or I sucked and everyone thought I was a loser. That's what I was dreading. I was dreading the judgment of me underperforming and me failing. And it was that fear of failure that had me, I'd say, for my first eight, nine, 10 competitions. I was dreading that the whole time until that European Championships in 2021 in Vastras. And that was when I felt as though those fears of failures came to fruition and I experienced that. And then through that, I realized, that's actually not so bad. If that's the worst thing that happens when you fail, that's actually, it's not that bad. And those failures
It
provided,
happened to Gavin I
yeah,
in that same competition.
yeah,
So maybe there
yeah,
was something in Sweden
yeah.
that helped.
Yeah. uh yeah, it was that failure that I learned the most from. That was kind of like the inflection point to make the most like positive and productive change in my training. It was like feedback of something needs to be done differently and I can learn from that. So it was the fear of failure, and then through accepting failure, accepting the possibility of failure, I think maybe that in a nutshell, accepting the possibility of failure, that was one of the most like transformative mindset shifts that I had myself in competing. And I remember for almost every competition thereafter, when I was going out for any lift, really, I had the mindset of, to be honest, doesn't even really matter if I do or don't get this lift because there will be more lifts afterwards. There will be another competition that I do afterwards, another opportunity to try and succeed. Failure is always going to be temporary. If you fail, if you've tried your best and you fail, perfect. You just try again and do better next time. So having that outlook, that approach, that built up over a number of competitions, and then there was no longer any fear of failure in a competition. Competition was purely an opportunity to express whatever I had built up over the previous months. It was just an opportunity to enjoy lifting, an opportunity to come together and like express myself in a way with like-minded people where we're all on our own like journey and path pursuing similar goals, self-improvement, yada yada yada. So going out for that deadlift where it was probably the most like meaningful or there was the most riding on that one attempt, I had the outlook that I can't. Nothing fundamentally is going to change whether I do or don't get this lift. Obviously, it would be cool, but if I fail it, there's no problem. I can just try again another time. So yeah, that acceptance of failure as a possibility. Because before, I wouldn't let myself consider failure as a possibility. I thought even contemplating failure was a failure in and of itself in my mind to allow that to be a possibility. You need to be like Michael Jordan, Mamba mentality, Kobe Bryant. Just don't even consider failure. You got to kill your enemies. You got to crush them. You got to be the hardest worker in the room. If you're even thinking about failing, you're a loser and you're failing already. That was what I thought I had to be like. And then I realized this is doing more harm than good. And if I can be true to myself and authentic to myself, yes, I'm scared of failing. I'm scared of failing. I'm scared of judgment. I'm scared to have people see me in a negative light. Totally fine. If I can accept that and accept that reality that it is possible that I fail, it's possible that I give everything and try to do everything to the best of my ability and I still fall short, that is possible. The only thing that I can do to hedge my bets against that is to put all of my efforts into my preparation, do everything that I can within my power to set myself up for the best possible day. If I've done that, then I can be happy and proud regardless of the result. If I give my best effort, then I can be content regardless of what the outcome is. And then that makes me able to enjoy the process. Whereas if I was miserable in 6 months of training leading up to the competition, with all the pressure being on this endpoint of the competition itself, if that doesn't go well, you're fucked then. The competition day has gone shit, and your 6 months of training before it has gone shit. Everything is shit. Whereas if I had a great time over 6 months of training and I enjoyed every training session, almost again, regardless of if it goes well or poorly on the platform, I'm gonna have another 6 months afterwards where I can enjoy that process. I can enjoy the daily experience, so on and so forth.
And I have a last question, so I don't take
Yeah,
more of your time.
yeah. Hit me.
This past year that you've been cutting, you've
Yeah,
been out of social media too,
yeah,
like
yeah,
completely out.
yeah. So for
Does it have something to do with that thing you mentioned about external validation and your relationship with what you produce and stuff?
So yes, after European Championships, Open Euros in March, after that competition, I did not use social media whatsoever for 6 months. So I didn't even click into the app. I didn't engage with it whatsoever. Um, and there was definitely a correlation with the struggling with the identity shift that I was undergoing, perhaps, and struggling with what I felt were the expectations that other people had of me, that I was this 120 kilo powerlifter and coach. And I am this person who is in the cycle of doing European Championships, national championships, world championships. And that's what I do. That's why people know me. That's why people pay attention to me or interact with me. And if I am diverting from that identity, do I still meet the expectations that people have of me? Am I still valuable to these people? Am I like washed up now? Do I have any inherent value? Like what is the value that I have to provide if not lifting heavy weights? Like what if I'm no longer the guy who is benching 200 kilos and pulling 340? Who am I? Like if I'm no longer this identity. So I was identifying with the achievements that I had rather than like who is Andrew Blackwood, like the character
Mm.
traits that I have, everything beyond that. And then I was living in this weird world where I was creating in my mind what I thought other people had in their mind about me. So I was trying to live in this like weird meta abstract world of trying to portray myself in a way that would impress or appeal to what I imagine is the expectation other people had of me. So while I was trying to grapple with that and figure out my own identity as I'm no longer like say I pulled out of world championships and I'm no longer doing that competition, what if I'm not that guy who is lifting competitively internationally, who am I? What is the value that I have to offer? And going through the process of figuring that out, eventually I'm glad I was able to settle on living in alignment with what I value and what interests me and what is important to me, and being able to express myself like authentically. And that's what I decided when I came back to social media. I'm going to just express what it is that I'm interested in and the path that I'm on and the things that I'm thinking about. And if there are people that resonate with that idea, which I'm glad to say over the month or so that I've been back on social media has absolutely been the case, then I can be happy and content with that, as opposed to trying to force an identity that no longer felt aligned with myself, or like trying to stay in that, yeah, in that identity, I guess. Like I posted the new SBD launch, and for whatever reason that post seemed to pick up with a lot of my followers who hadn't seen my content over the last month or so that I've been back on social media. So tons of people who hadn't seen me in 6 7 months saw that post, and people were like, what the fuck, who is this guy? Like bring back 120 Andrew, like bring him back, we want 120 Andrew back. And part of me for a second was like, oh shit, like have I again diverged from like this identity? Like am I letting people down? Am I washed up now? Like do I have value? Do I have something positive to bring if it's not in line with that image that I previously held? But again, like I say, I'm confident and settled in the fact that I will just conduct myself authentically and speak my own truth, so to speak, just of what is interesting me, what's going on in my mind, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And anyone who resonates and aligns with that, perfect. Come along for the ride. Anyone who it no longer aligns and resonates with, that's no problem either. It's just not for you at this time. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who produce and provide content that may appeal to you.
And you know pretty well that it is not the easy way to grow as a powerlifting coach to create the content you're creating. Like
Yeah,
there are shortcuts you're not taking,
yeah, for
so you
sure.
don't care.
But I don't want to live that life. I don't want to be that person who maybe
Yeah,
takes those shortcuts or has to uphold an image that doesn't feel true to me.
it's healthier for the business. True.
For sure.
I'm for your because you have to develop. How long you been coaching powerlifting? Like,
Probably since 2020.
and how
Yeah.
what is the most people you've coached?
At one time on my roster,
Yeah,
40, 40
40.
people.
That's a
Yeah.
roast.
Yeah.
that at that point you have to know what you want and
Yeah.
what you don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, somewhat ties back into that idea of if someone is like bought into me, like my process and my philosophies and ideologies, it makes coaching fulfilling as opposed to trying to like force that upon someone, trying to like drag someone kicking and screaming or trying to get blood from a stone with someone who is not invested in me. It makes it makes the coaching experience more draining, less fulfilling for me. So I want it to be fulfilling. I want to work with people who like will get the benefit from it, you know? So the way that I've found to do that is to just be true to myself. Because if I'm posting this kind of yeah, like fake image of me, it's going to attract people who are not necessarily the people that I want to work with. So yeah, that's the philosophy for now. Just try to be true to myself, and then the right people will be drawn to it.
And I have one last small question because
Yeah,
you've been
for
with
sure.
Joey for a long, long time.
Yeah,
I've had athletes who struggled with this thing of not being the top of the roast, not
yeah,
being the favorite, because there's something about being the favorite of the coach,
yeah,
right? There's that thing, and we can suppose, at least for these past 3 4 years, you're not being the favorite of Joey, if that ever exists. It
yeah,
doesn't exist. You
yeah,
are a coach. We know
yeah,
that doesn't exist. But you
yeah.
never had to fight that intrusive thought of everyone's progressing, I'm not progressing. He has like 10 people at Euros. Why would he care about me?
I think I have seen that more often. Say that like critique, uh, and we'll just like talk specifically in the Joey example. I've more often seen that critique from people who don't work with him rather than
Yeah,
anything I ever experienced myself. So the critique would be that Joey only cares about Russ or Jesus or like whoever the superstars are. And from my experience, like working with him, I never felt like that was the case. Always responded to my messages timely, always gave me like due attention and care. I think the more you give to a coach, and we'll just talk in the broader sense now, the more you give to a coach, the more the coach can give back to you.
yeah,
So if you feel as though you want to build that rapport, how about when you send your training videos, don't just send a blank video with no context and no extra information or no
yeah.
nothing beyond that. The
I
more
hate
that you
that.
give, yeah, the more human you are, the more that you express, the more you tell about your life, the more that you get to actually talk and have these conversations, the more you can get back from a coach. So for me, even considering like all of the people that I work with, there would be some people who fall on the spectrum of very bare bones communication, very minimal information. If I'm asking questions to try draw more of that information out, it may be even still not that much communication and rapport that goes back and forth, and that could be
It's
totally fine
so
based on
draining when you have this feeling like you have to pull the rope
yeah, yeah,
to
uh,
like I don't feel well. Squad doesn't feel
yeah,
well. Well,
yeah,
try to explain because I'm just
yeah,
seeing a video.
yeah.
I can know what's going on.
Not a mind reader, not a yeah. So sometimes maybe that's just what that individual is looking for. They, I don't know, for whatever reason, they're resistant to having that dialogue and back and forth and discussion. And then there's people who are on the other end of the spectrum who are incredibly communicative and they would keep you up to date with everything that's happening in their life. And you would get really detailed responses. And I would say they are the people that I enjoy working with the most. That is the most fulfilling. Absolutely, regardless of like how competitive the person is or where they're placing or any information like that. The more rapport and the more like human connection you can have with someone, the more you talk back and forth, the more expressive you are, the more potentially vulnerable you are sharing what you're experiencing, then the closer the bond can be with the coach. Where if you are giving bare bones communication, giving like very minimal interaction on your side, it's going to be difficult to foster that and to be a favorite. So regardless of followers or strength or performance or anything like that, I think you will get back what you put in if you are communicative and interact. There will always be that. So for me, I never felt any concern about not being the favorite. Like I get it as well from a business perspective. If there's someone who has 500,000 followers, that's going to be good for business, baby. If like they're continually sharing and promoting you as a coach, that's a lot of eyeballs. That's marketing. Like it would be silly to not avail of that in terms of like sharing that content or marketing that person. That's just like basic marketing and business. But in terms of like the treatment that any like that I experienced, I would have no concerns or never would have worried about that, to be honest.
And at this day, it must be said about Joey that he's the only one who's built a real huge roast outside the U.S. Because obviously
Yeah,
you have Marcellus there in the U.S., you have Sean, you have, but in Europe, Sean have people in Europe, I think,
yeah,
but this image of like the roast with Alva and stuff, he's the only guy who's achieved that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there must be something we have to learn about that. Well, if we want to build that,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would have nothing but good things to say about Joey and my experience with him over the years. 100%.
I will use this clip so in case he sees that he comes and talk with me.
Yeah,
So great, man. We're done. I won't take much
amazing.
more time from you. Thanks a lot for coming. Been a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. Thank you so much for having me on.
We'll keep in touch. Goodbye.
Cheers.